Jesus never claimed to be God. That's what they say. But what if I told you his own enemies understood his claims so clearly they picked up stones to execute him on the spot?
The objection sounds compelling. Show me where Jesus said the exact words, "I am God, worship me." It's a challenge Muslims and skeptics repeat constantly. But here's the problem with that demand. You're demanding a verbatim phrase that even your own religious texts don't provide? Does the Quran ever record Allah saying the exact Arabic phrase, "I am Allah, there is no God but me, so worship me"? No. You derive that doctrine from context, titles, and actions. Why do you grant your text a standard you deny to mine? But let's go further. Let's use your own sources. Surah 4, 171 calls Jesus kalimatuhu, his word, and ruhun minhu, a spirit from him. Now I have a question for you. Is Allah's word created or uncreated? If created, you've adopted the Mutazilite heresy your own tradition condemned. If uncreated, Jesus shares an eternal divine attribute. Which is it?
And there's more. Surah 19, verse 33 records Jesus himself saying, "Peace on me the day I was born, the day I die, and the day I am raised alive." Sound familiar? Your own Quran has Jesus predicting his death and resurrection, the very events you claim never happened.
Now, they'll quote Colossians 1:15, the firstborn of all creation. Case closed, right? Jesus was created first. But not so fast. The Greek word is prototokos, meaning rank and preeminence, not protoktistos, which means first created. That word existed. Paul didn't use it. And here's the proof it means rank. Psalm 89 calls David the firstborn, yet David was Jesse's youngest son. Firstborn means supreme heir, not first in time. But Paul doesn't stop there. The very next verse says, "For by him all things were created." If Christ was part of all things created, then he created himself. That's absurd. Paul explicitly excludes Jesus from the created order. The text destroys the objection in the very next breath. Now, let's get to the moment that nearly got Jesus killed on the spot. John 8:58. The Pharisees challenge him about Abraham, and Jesus responds, "Before Abraham was, I am. Not I was, not I existed, I am. Present tense for eternal existence. In Greek, ego eimi. And every Jew listening knew exactly what he was claiming. Exodus 3:14. When Moses asks God's name at the burning bush, God answers, "I am who I am." The Greek Septuagint, the Bible Jesus and the apostles used, translates this as ego eimi ho on. Jesus takes this divine name for himself. This isn't subtle. This isn't ambiguous. This is the most sacred name in Judaism, and Jesus claimed it. And look at the reaction. John 8:59. They picked up stones to stone him. Why? Because Leviticus 24:16 prescribed death by stoning for one crime, blasphemy, claiming the divine name. They understood perfectly what Jesus was saying. Do you understand it less than his enemies did? But what about worship? Let's look at the Greek word proskyneo. In Matthew 4:10, Jesus says you shall worship, proskyneo, the Lord your God and him only. Now watch this. Matthew 14:33, the disciples worshipped him, proskyneo. Matthew 28:9, the women worshipped him, proskyneo. John 9:38, the healed blind man worshipped him, proskyneo, same word, same action given to the Father and the Son.
You have to understand the cultural impossibility of this. These were Jews. They recited the Shema twice daily. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. The penalty for idolatry was death. A first-century Jew would sooner cut out his own tongue than worship a mere man, unless they recognized he was not merely a man. And here's what makes Jesus' acceptance of worship so shocking. In Acts 14, when crowds try to worship Paul and Barnabas, they tear their robes and shout, "We are men of like nature with you." In Revelation 22, when John falls to worship an angel, the angel rebukes him, "Worship God." Every righteous creature refuses worship. Jesus never did, not once. But this was all invented later by Constantine at Nicaea in 325. Really? Let's look at what Christians believed in the 1st and 2nd century, 200 years before Constantine was even born. Ignatius of Antioch, writing around 107 AD, within a decade of John's death, calls Jesus our God in his letter to the Ephesians. In his letter to the Romans, he says, "Permit me to be an imitator of the passion of my God." And here's a hostile witness. Pliny the Younger, a Roman governor, wrote to Emperor Trajan in 112 AD that Christians chant verses to Christ as to a god. That's enemy testimony, documented 200 years before Nicaea. So let's apply basic logic. Jesus operated in a fiercely monotheistic culture. Multiple people called him Lord and God and worshipped him with proskyneo. He never rebuked any of them. Angels refused worship. Apostles refused worship. Jesus accepted it. The anomaly is only explicable if he knew himself worthy of worship. Your Quran calls Jesus the Word of Allah. It accidentally preserves his death and resurrection. It commands you to consult the gospel. The gospel I possess says he is God in the flesh who died for sinners and rose again. The evidence is not missing. The manuscripts agree. The church fathers testify. The question is not whether the evidence is sufficient. The question is, will you follow it? Thomas saw the risen Christ and declared, "My Lord and my God." Jesus didn't rebuke him, he blessed him, and everyone who would believe after. That invitation is still open. The evidence is here. The tomb is empty. The Lord is risen, and he's calling you by name. If this video challenged you, drop a comment below. If it strengthened your faith, share it with someone wrestling with doubt. Subscribe and hit the bell because we're just getting started. Part 2 tackles Thomas verse by verse. Links in the description.